What is going on to all you wonderful humans? Hope this day is going well for you and that all is okay. And if it's not, that is okay too. I saw some of you this past weekend at the Stronger Together conference. My cup was so full after talking to all you wonderful humans. I received some wonderful messages after, so keep those messages coming in. Not just the messages of compliments, but any questions that you had. I had some people reach out and say, hey Mike, I'm really loving the program, but I'm finding the self-compassion piece really hard. We're gonna address that today. So last week we explored self-compassion and how you can use self-compassion to be kind to your mind and even speak to yourself like you're speaking to a loved one. I know, which is crazy. For many of us, this is challenging. Many of people that get into self-compassion feel guilty for giving themselves that time, but remind yourself that when you fill your cup up, you have more to give, which is very important, because if your cup is running on empty, you only have this much to give. If your cup is this much, then you maybe are okay giving a little more. If your cup is full, then you for sure have no problem giving more. So this week, I'm gonna keep the practice the exact same, the formal practice of self-compassion, but I'm gonna add 2 informal practices to this week. So I'll give you 2 practices that have helped me train my mind to be kind to myself. So what I love to do, first of all, is I love to look at how we can train our mind and we can ask ourselves, how am I doing? How many times in a given day do you ask others that question? How are you doing? How was your day? How was your day at school today? Hey, how was work? But often in your entire life, how many times have you asked yourself that question? How many times in your life have you asked yourself the same question, how am I doing? One little practice that I've created is called PEM, which stands for Physical, Emotional, Mental Check-In. Let's try it out now. Take a moment. If you want, allow your eyes to close, but you can do this informally as well throughout life. This actually, the reason I created this practice was so you could use it throughout your day informally. So take a moment, ask yourself, how am I doing right now? How are you doing physically right now? Noting any physical discomfort. Maybe you feel rested or unrested, but how are you doing physically in this moment? Now ask yourself, how are you doing emotionally now? Are you calm? Are you still? Are you annoyed? Are you anxious? Not trying to change anything, but just in this moment, how are you doing now? Almost like there's like a little human in front of you and you're just noticing their emotion. And then finally, how are you doing right now mentally? Are you present with me in this moment? Are you in the future thinking about what might happen or may happen? Are you in the past? Okay, come back to the start. Let's ask ourselves this again. How are you doing right now physically? Make a note of it. Emotionally. How are you doing right now mentally? Just take a note. Try this out during your day. I'll attach a formal guided practice to do this, but my true intent for this practice of PEM is actually for you to integrate it throughout your day informally. So when you wake up, ask yourself, hey, how am I doing physically? Tired, emotionally, mentally, thinking about work. Or maybe ask yourself that on your way home, how am I doing physically? I feel pretty awake. Emotionally, how are you doing? Well, I'm a little run down. Mentally, my mind's really thinking about the past. We don't try to change it. We're just simply making note. How am I doing? How am I doing physically? How am I doing emotionally? How am I doing mentally? If that practice does not connect with you, totally okay. If you're like, Mike, that sucked, don't like it, let's move on. This is your one for you then. Let's try loving yourself as if your life depends on it. I first read this book, Radically Loving Yourself, as if your life depends on it. And I thought, well, this is an interesting title. Let's look into it. And one of the practices they suggest is that you say to yourself many times a day, I love you, or I love myself, which to me, I found very weird and uncomfortable. But, and this is the big one, but the fact is I do love myself. The fact is I am in love with myself and I want wellness for me, both mentally and physically, just like I want things good to happen to my loved ones. But I found it uncomfortable to do this. And I realized that no one in the world, no one loves me like I know and love me. My mom would argue this for sure, but I still stay true to it, that I love me in a way that no one else loves me. So what I did is I picked something that I do daily. And I had this like massive water bottle that takes 63 seconds to fill up. And I know that because I used to count because I was bored, right? So I would then, instead of counting to 63 and trying to be present with the water going into the bottle, I would say to myself for these 63 odd seconds, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. And I would say that for 63 seconds for the entire time in my mind, not usually out loud. Maybe if I was home alone, but usually in my mind. And for the first couple days, it felt like a chore, to be fully honest. I felt like, oh, this isn't really gonna work. I don't really like this, but I often give myself these like homework practices before I give them to clients to make sure that they work. And I thought about, if this was a client of mine, I'd suggest that they work through that uncomfortable energy of loving themselves. And as sure as the sun would shine the next day, it friggin' worked. It worked. I was in the shower, place where typically my mind goes to the future or to the past or to my to-do list and I want to redirect it. But I noticed that this like tape was playing, right? Like an old school cassette. I could just kind of like feel it. And the tape was, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. And I legitimately laughed out loud in the shower, like a lunatic. And I laughed at it because I thought, whoa, this actually works. I found that my mind would play this tape over and over during slow times throughout my day, on my drive to places where I go on autopilot. I found that I was doing it. And not only that, it would translate into my actions. I would think about doing something and an internal comment would come up and say, if you love yourself, would you do this? If you loved yourself, would you make that action? Would you choose to do this or not do this? And I love testing these little things out because for everything that sticks, like I love myself, I love myself, I love myself practice, or the PEM, for everything that sticks, there's probably like 10 to 20 things that don't stick. So try this out, see how it connects with you. Again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you know how to get contact me. Go to mindfulmike.ca, hit contact Mike just like that, or DM me directly at mindfulmasse, M-A-S-S-E, and remind yourself that when you have any questions, comments, concerns, reach out to me. If you are struggling with the practice and you need some help, we have some time set aside again that I can help you one-on-one via video or phone chat, no problem at all. Never hesitate, it's not gonna cost you a cent. Just reach out to me, that's all you have to do. This is our 7th week. If you're behind, that's okay, I'll see you when I see you. But remember to plant the seed and to water over time. And this week's homework is the formal guided practice, at least I would say 3 to 5 times in the week, the formal guided practice of the self-compassion practice. And then we're gonna follow that up with the informal practice of either PEM, physical, emotional, mental check-in, or of course, if you're more interested in the practice of I love myself, then do that one informally as well. Hope you have a beautiful, blessed week. Again, thank you for all the wonderful messages and thank you for your energy and support in this program. Talk to you soon. Peace and love, everybody, and bye for now.